Manny Pacquiao's career is one filled with moments of pure boxing brilliance, but it's also marked by an array of intense challenges that forced him to constantly adapt and evolve. With 70 fights under his belt, spanning across for decades, Pacquiao has faced an incredible range of opponents, from giants to slick technicians, from brawlers to counterpunchers. In each of these bouts, he carved his legacy with speed, aggression, and determination. But not every fight was just about showcasing his explosive power or quick reflexes. Some of the toughest opponents he faced pushed him to the brink of his own limitations and made him reconsider the very elements that had built his career. These fighters didn't just force him to fight, they forced him to rethink his approach to the sport, to question his instincts, and to dig deeper than he ever had before. These select fighters aren't just remembered because they hit hard. They made Manny Pacquiao hesitate in the ring, something that's rare for a fighter who built his style on relentless forward motion. These were the opponents who made Pacquiao question himself, his timing, his footwork, and his tactics. They turned every round into a mental battle as much as a physical one. Pacquiao isn't one to make excuses for himself. He has always been upfront about what these fights meant to him. For him, it's not about counting the easy wins or the highlight reel knockouts. It's about those rare moments when an opponent forced him to reset, recalibrate, and come back even stronger. Let's take a closer look at some of the men who have left an indelible mark on Pacquiao's career. First on this list is Erik Morales, a fighter who stands out as a turning point in Pacquiao's career. Back in 2005, Pacquiao was on a high, having won several explosive bouts that earned him recognition as the future of boxing. His speed was unmatched, and his knockout power was feared. But then came Morales, a fighter who didn't try to match Pacquiao's lightning-fast pace. Instead, Morales disrupted it. He was calm, disciplined, and in complete control from the first bell. He didn't rush to engage. He dictated the pace and outsmarted Pacquiao over the course of 12 rounds. Morales didn't rely on brute force, he relied on strategy, on smarts. That's why the loss hurt Pacquiao more than anything. He didn't get knocked out, he got out hot. Morales made him frustrated and unsure, forcing Pacquiao to second-guess everything he had relied on in the ring. In the aftermath, Pacquiao didn't blame his camp. His gloves were the cut above his eye. He took full responsibility for the loss, admitting that Morales had simply fought a smarter, more disciplined fight. That loss became a pivotal moment in Pacquiao's career. It wasn't just a defeat, it was a wake-up call. It reminded him that no matter how fast or powerful you are, there will always be someone who can outsmart you, outthink you, and disrupt your rhythm. And that respect for Morales was something Pacquiao carried with him into their rematches, where he eventually won. However, that first loss remained in the back of his mind, always reminding him that even the greatest have their limits, and those limits can always be pushed. If Erik Morales halted Pacquiao's momentum, then Juan Manuel Marquez was the man who never let him a state. The rivalry spanned for intense battles, each one bringing new challenges for Pacquiao. Marquez wasn't just tough, he was incredibly smart and relentless. Where most fighters would be overwhelmed by Pacquiao's high-paced, aggressive style, Marquez stood his ground. He had an uncanny ability to read Pacquiao's rhythm, timing his counters with pinpoint precision. While others folded under the onslaught, Marquez absorbed Pacquiao's attacks, studied them, and responded with counters. That kept Pacquiao on edge. The rivalry wasn't just about physical prowess, it was about mental warfare. Marquez seemed to always be one step ahead, and Pacquiao admitted that it was Marquez's ability to anticipate his every move that made him such a nightmare. The rivalry culminated in their fourth bout, a fight that changed everything for Pacquiao. In that fateful moment, Marquez landed a perfectly timed counter right hand that knocked Pacquiao out cold. It was one of the most shocking knockouts in boxing history, and it left the entire sport in disbelief. But even in the aftermath of that crushing defeat, Pacquiao's respect for Marquez grew. He didn't hate him for it. He respected Marquez for being the one fighter who consistently stayed in the shadows, studying his every move, adapting to his rhythm, and making Pacquiao dig deeper than he had ever been forced to before. The knockout wasn't just a loss for Pacquiao, it was a turning point, a reminder that Marquez had pushed him to the limits of his own abilities. Then came the fight that everyone was waiting for. Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. This was the most anticipated fight in boxing history, and it did not disappoint in terms of intrigue. But for Pacquiao, it was also one of the most frustrating nights of his career. Mayweather didn't overwhelm Pacquiao with power, he overwhelmed him with precision, distance, and timing. It wasn't a battle of raw strength or speed, it was a battle of tactics. Mayweather's ability to control the distance, to neutralize Pacquiao's explosive flurries, and to avoid being hit by simply moving and timing his counters left Pacquiao unable to find any rhythm. For the entire 12 rounds, Pacquiao chased shadows, swung in air, and landed just enough to keep Mayweather honest, but never enough to break through. Pacquiao admitted that, even with the shoulder injury he claimed to have suffered during the fight, Mayweather's style would have been difficult to crack regardless. Mayweather didn't just beat Pacquiao physically, he beat him mentally. Pacquiao had come into the fight confident in his speed and power, but Mayweather's ability to stay calm, control the pace, and dictate the tempo of the fight left Pacquiao frustrated and confused. It wasn't a matter of not being in shape or not being ready. It was a matter of being outmaneuvered by a fighter who was always one step ahead. For Pacquiao, Mayweather's style was a nightmare. He couldn't figure it out. That loss didn't just sting because he lost the fight, but because he couldn't crack the code. Mayweather didn't just win the fight, he taught Pacquiao a valuable lesson in the art of defense, control, and timing. Next, we turn to Miguel Cotto, another fighter who tested Pacquiao in a completely different way. Cotto wasn't concerned with outsmarting Pacquiao or avoiding his punches. He tested Pacquiao's endurance and heart. In their 2009 battle, Cotto came out strong, landing heavy shots that pushed Pacquiao backward. For the first time in a while, Pacquiao wasn't the one dictating the pace. Cotto absorbed everything Pacquiao threw at him and kept coming. His power, his resolve, and his willingness to stand toe-to-toe with Pacquiao made it a grueling fight for Manny. It wasn't clear who would win the first few rounds, as Cotto pushed Pacquiao to his limits, but just like in every other fight, Pacquiao found a way to adapt. He used his speed, his angles, and his relentless pressure to break Cotto down. The fight ended with Pacquiao winning via TKO, but he never downplayed Cotto's toughness. After the fight, Pacquiao said that Cotto was one of the strongest opponents he had ever faced, not just physically, but emotionally. Cotto fought with a spirit that Pacquiao admired, a spirit that refused to break under pressure. It was that kind of resilience that made the fight so memorable, and Pacquiao credits it as one of the toughest challenges of his career. Cotto didn't just try to win the fight, he fought for his pride, for his country, and for his legacy. Antonio Margarito, meanwhile, presented a challenge that was unlike anything Pacquiao had faced before. Margarito was simply too big at the weigh-in. The size difference was obvious. On fight night, Margarito stepped into the ring nearly 17 pounds heavier than Pacquiao, towering over him with an almost unshakable chin. What made Margarito so dangerous, though, wasn't just his size, it was his ability to take everything Pacquiao threw at him and still keep coming forward. Pacquiao landed over 400 punches in that fight, each one fast, violent, and accurate. But Margarito just kept walking forward, absorbing every shot, refusing to go down. His face swelled, his eyes were damaged, and yet he never stopped moving toward Pacquiao. For the first time in his career, Pacquiao actually felt sorry for his opponent. Margarito didn't fold under pressure. He didn't stop fighting, he kept coming, no matter how much punishment he took. Pacquiao later admitted that Margarito was the one fighter he truly felt sorry for during a fight. The toughness Margarito showed that night was something Pacquiao had never seen before. And for all of Pacquiao's brilliance in that fight, his speed, his accuracy, there were moments when he simply couldn't understand why Margarito wouldn't stay down. Despite his dominance, there were times when Pacquiao just had to shake his head in disbelief, asking himself, why won't you stay down? All of these fighters, Morales, Marquez, Mayweather, Cotto, and Margarito, didn't just make Pacquiao a better fighter. They tested him in ways that shaped his legacy. They forced him to adapt, to evolve, and to fight smarter. They pushed him beyond his comfort zone, made him think harder, and helped him grow as a boxer. For Pacquiao, these were the men who defined his career, not by the belts they helped him win, but by the challenges they presented. These were the fighters who helped him become the legend he is today.